You're listening to the We Are Voices for Life podcast. Get ready for another compelling episode on the pro-life ethic.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of We Are Voices for Life. My name is Lori Beulah, and we are kicking off a series called Stories for Life. And we have some amazing stories coming up. Today's story is coming from our guest, Jessica Rosario. And I just want to introduce her, let her introduce herself to everybody. And she has an amazing story that I want her to share with everyone. So, Jessica, thank you so much for being on We Are Voices for Life. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay, thank you so much, Lori, for having me to share my story. I am Jessica Rosario, and I'm part of Voices for Life as well. I'm a voice for life too. So
Yes.
it's exciting to be the first person with this new series. It's awesome. Born and raised in Youngstown, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I married my amazing husband, her name Rosario. We are pastors of Generations Life Center, and we've been married for almost 20 years. It'll be 20
Wow.
years next year, so it's 19 years. We have
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We have three amazing boys. My
Mm-hmm.
son Israel, who's 18, Judah is 15, and Exodus is 14. Exodus
Very
is Zuza
interesting
Rosario.
names. Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
love those names. They're really nice young men, nice, handsome young men.
Thank you so much.
So,
Those names were birthed out of the things I was going through. So,
right.
my
Like
son's
in the
very complicated.
Bible, when they name their children by the circumstance, that's kind of like what you
We
did.
believe that and their name Israel's my prince. Judah
Mm-hmm.
is my praise. It brought me some really rough times. And
Mm-hmm.
Exodus is literally my coming out and going in. So he is the
Wow.
X factor, literally. Yeah,
That is an amazing story in itself. We're going to
it
hear
is.
that
It is.
story one day.
Yeah, it
So
is.
so you have been in the pro life movement for a long time, but I'm kind of new to this movement, and I'm meeting so many amazing people who've been pro life and involved in this pro life narrative conversation movement for a long time, and you've been in this movement a long time. So share with us how you got involved. Like, what's your story?
Well, it's been uh, 2014 is when I came into the pro life movement, and it's basically saved my life. I've been in the church my whole entire life. I was born in the pews. My parents were ministers, and at a very young age, I just never doubted God. I never doubted Jesus. He was just like my best friend. At a young age, I would talk to him. I would act. He was as close of a friend or person to me than anybody. I just never ever doubted him. And I got into a part of my life during college where I got off track, and
Mm-hmm.
I was in a really really abusive relationship. He was physically abusive, mentally, financially, the whole can't
Wow.
the whole cabal. He was just
Mm-hmm.
all of those things. And I got to a part that my faith was, I still believed in Christ, but my faith was wavering. I was
Mm-hmm.
living a really, really rough lifestyle. He was heavily in a big drug dealer there. And, we lived together, and I had got pregnant, and I was just scared, devastated
Yeah.
that church girl,
Yeah.
bad boy, and she went away to college and this and that. My
Mm-hmm.
parents were pastors of a very nice sized church, and I didn't want to bring shame to them. I didn't know how to go to them. It
Mm-hmm.
just really wasn't talked about, the
Yeah.
whole sexual interaction or anything like that.
Right.
In YPWW and stuff. We learned about Jesus. We learned church stories. We learned how to live a good life that's pleasing to God, but that was never kind of a focus, even in our youth group.
Yeah.
So I just got scared, and no one was around.
Sure.
And the thing that just hit me was I got to go and get some help. And so I was in Cleveland. I was living in Cleveland, in East Cleveland, and I went to Planned Parenthood because I didn't know much about, abortion or anything. But it said Planned Parenthood, and I need some
Mm-hmm.
help with planning
Right.
what was gonna happen. But
Right.
I was in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of distress, and I got on the bus. Euclid to whatever, and it was right there, right in my face. So I got off and I went in by myself. I took this journey all by myself, and I sat in a room. It was looked like a closet almost. It was just a table and a chair,
Mm-hmm.
and I told them what happened, and they came and put some pamphlets in front of me and walked out the room. And they said, just look through this and let us know what your decision is. And I'm
Okay.
like, decision? Everything just went so fast. I don't even think I
Yeah.
looked at the pamphlets. And then she said, well, when did you want to schedule? And I'm like, schedule, and they're like,
Mm.
well, we could set you up with a doctor. It just wasn't discussed what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then everything went so fast.
How old were you again? How old were you?
I was about, oh, I was about, mm, maybe about 19.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in Cleveland
You
for
were a
about 2
baby.
years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was about 19 years old. And I was just scared. And so my boyfriend, he really was like, okay. And I can recall his brother saying, I'm not going to do this again. I was like, again, like what's really going on? But, I guess he
Mm-hmm.
would tell his brother I had to have it and he would give him money or whatever. And, it was just a
Wow.
bad situation.
Yeah.
Um, I can remember it was around Christmas time, and the
Mm-hmm.
song that was on was "Let It Snow" by Boys to
Mm-hmm.
Men. Let it snow, let it snow.
Mm-hmm.
Last night. So
Yeah.
whenever it came on, even after that, I just
Yeah.
bawled. Like I just,
Yeah.
it was a mess. I was just torn. I remember feeling relieved, for like a
Mm-hmm.
second, and then the guilt and like, what did I do, just hit me like a ton of bricks. I
Mm.
remember that feeling. It was just a empty and loneliness. I thought God had turned his face away from me. Even in the
Mm.
lifestyle that I was living, I still knew he was guiding me and leading me. But
Mm.
if I ever felt alone, I know he was always there, but I probably blocked him out of the situation because I was so
Mm.
ashamed. Um, so it was just a really, really rough time. And I remember, the abuse got worse and I was still trying to heal and get over what had happened, but couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And he was extremely abusive. Sexually abusive. It was really bad time.
Wow.
And I just remember getting in a car. I actually called. I was like, I need a ride home. Somebody buy me a car. And like my grandmother sent me a car. She's like, go pick up your car and come home. So I got a car. I just packed up. It was summertime. I packed up whatever I had and I came home. I left everything
Mm-hmm.
behind. And later on, he had said, it seemed like when you left, all the good that was in me left.
Mm.
It was just like that. And I said, I remember being on the road and I was on my way home driving. And I said, God, there has to be more for my life. And I was screaming. I was like, Adam, where are you? I don't want to be alone. I was asking for my person, you know what I'm saying, who's going
Yeah.
to be with me. Because
Yeah.
I grew up in a very loving family. My parents got married, kind of out of high school, got
Mm-hmm.
saved. And it was like a fairy tale. I just had a really, really great childhood. Me and my
Yeah.
brother say it all the time. We say, thank you, mom and dad. We didn't have much, but we thought we had it all because
Mm-hmm.
whatever we had it together. And it was just a really,
That's
really great
beautiful.
childhood.
Mm-hmm.
So I came home, got back into the church, and I said, God, I love you. I said, but I think I love you because I just always loved you. I have to understand in my head why.
Yeah.
And I went into that whole, I'm gonna really read the word. I started in Genesis, and while I went through the Bible, I'm like, there you are. I'm like, now it makes sense. It always made sense here, but it started making sense here. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, there you are. You are the promised savior. This is why you did it. I said, I know you did it. I don't doubt you did it, but why? Like, why? What's so
Mm-hmm.
special about us that you would do it?
Mm-hmm.
And then I just really anchored in. He was just my whole entire life. And in that, I got my Boaz, I got my Adam.
Mm-hmm. Good for you. Now, I remember you said a couple of things that is very familiar in all the stories is that you came from a loving family and you were serving the Lord, you believed in God, you had a close relationship. Um, and then when you move away from home, you go to college, that's kind of like where people kind of lose or they kind of get distance between themselves and God. That's
Yeah,
very
because you're away
familiar.
from your family. Yeah, you're
You're
away from
away
your
from your
family.
covering.
And
Mm-hmm.
then all of that information, so you get used to information, you start questioning things in your
Mm-hmm.
own life. I think that's where
Yeah.
the sexuality thing come from. Oh, even the transgender stuff. I think that's really takes because they have you
Mm-hmm.
thinking outside of the norm. You
Right. Yeah.
know,
When you're away from your covering, and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
The other thing you said too is that, your boyfriend was like, no, he wanted you. Is that what he was saying? He wanted you to have an abortion.
It
It
was just
what
like
was
whatever.
a whatever, yeah. And it was a toxic, abusive relationship. That's also very common that I
Oh yeah, I
hear.
was like, if I have this child, he will always be in my life, and it will always.
Mm-hmm.
He actually died
Yeah.
a couple years ago too. To
Wow.
rest his soul. I hope somebody got to him. He was a
To
strong
talk to him
believer.
about Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Now you had a while ago you shared with me about you happened to be watching a movie. You was in the movie theater,
yeah,
and that kind of brought you to your pro-life movement.
yeah.
Share that. That is a very interesting story as
It
well.
is very interesting because that's when I came out to my dad too.
Mm,
Um, I was hearing this movie. I wanted to see it. It was
mm-hmm.
called Gosnell, and
Gauze, no, okay.
it was about. And I heard somebody just did a podcast about. He was the torture
Mm-hmm.
abortion doctor.
I
He
had
was this.
never heard of him. I'm just now hearing
Oh,
him that he's been
it,
around for a long. I don't know the whole story. I have to research that, but I keep hearing that
you have to
name.
watch the movie. You have to watch the
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
I watched it and it was just so horrific because when you're there in the place, that you're
Mm-hmm.
shielded. You don't even know it. The place I went to could have been like that, but I was in
Yeah.
such a fog. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
They cover your face, your ears. You could put earphones on because you the crunching. All this
Oh,
is not normal. It's
yeah.
not normal. So, and you're in there by yourself. You're alone. But I
Yeah.
was in the theater, and I asked my dad to take me. I don't know why
Mm-hmm.
I asked my dad to take me. It was
Mm-hmm.
to like an Akron. It wasn't even in Youngstown, and I was like, Dad, I want you to come see a movie with me. And that had to be nothing but God because I don't know why I would tell him to take me,
Mm-hmm.
but I know I didn't want to go see it by myself. So we watched it and we were pretty much the only ones in the movie theater. It might have been a couple other people, but it felt like I was in there by myself. It was just me in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And after it was over, me and my dad just sat there in silence.
Mm-hmm.
We sat there, the credits had went, and we were just sitting there. And it was a froze screen, and it was like if you're having any, they must have knew that people would be touched so deeply.
Right.
I'm like, how could I do this? How did
Mm.
I get that far? And I'm sitting there, and it says, if you need help and you're having questions, call your Right to Life in your area. And
Mm-hmm.
right there, while I was in the theater, I had came out to my dad. I told my dad for the first time that I had one, and he just
Mm-hmm.
cried with me, and he
Mm-hmm.
just loved on me. He didn't condemn me. He said, "I wish you would have
Yeah.
said something, just."
Yeah.
But when you kill a baby, you kill a whole generation. Like I could be a grandmother right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And even years after that, I would hear my baby cry at a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
Not, and it was always like
Mm-hmm.
9 months after from Christmas. I mean, I just went through a lot. But I
Yeah.
said, I'm having problems. I need some help. Um, so I called the Right to Life, and Miss Sally answered on the other phone. She just picked up the phone. She was like, "Hello," it's right, and I was like, I went to her. So I'm like, I need some help. I need somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And she said
Wow.
she gave me where they're at, and she said, "Just
Mm-hmm.
come to the meeting. We're there for you." And I walk in, and these little white ladies in there. I came in and they just loved on me so much.
Yeah.
And I love Miss Sally. She basically was the beginning to bring me out of a lot of stuff. And not so much that they talked about like the they really didn't even really talk about the abortion. They just
Mm-hmm.
loved me where I was at.
Mm-hmm.
They loved me where I was at. And it was just regular business meetings. It wasn't even nothing like it was a class or
Okay.
anything like that. But being
Okay.
amongst them and how
Yeah.
passionate they were about it, it just drew me in.
Yeah.
And I was
That.
like, I need some help. That's what I was saying. Maybe
Yeah.
I hired to help and make sure this doesn't happen for anybody else.
Right. Right. I do hear a lot of women who are post abortive say what they wish someone would have said to them or what they needed to hear versus what they heard. I've heard people who they were walking into an abortion clinic and they saw the aborted baby and they felt even more disgusted in themselves. Like those certain tactics that pro-life people do at abortion clinics not always helpful. And so what do you like when you reached out to Sally, she just was loving on you, having normal conversation. She didn't really say too much about the abortion itself.
Yeah, she didn't.
Mhm.
She might have said more on the phone, that
Mhm.
brought me there. Just
Yeah.
she calmed me
To get
down, and
yeah.
that's all. I just needed to let it out because I had
Yeah.
held that for so long.
For a long time. How many
Mhm.
years had passed since?
Let's see. So I was about 18, 19,
Mhm.
and I had to be 18. It
Mhm.
wasn't very long. It wasn't because I'm thinking about it. Yeah, it was long. It was long
Mhm.
because I came back home, um, and then it was 2014. All
Okay.
that time. It was
Okay.
2014.
So you
Um,
carried that for a while. One of the
Nobody.
things nobody knew, and that is also very common because there's a lot of people who are post-abortive, and they've been carrying it for decades, and they have decided I'm going to carry. I'm just taking this to the grave with me,
And
and the
I tried to get pregnant. I was like, I can
hmm
undo it. Like I told, I was
yeah
like, I had heard somebody else's story. I wanted, and I couldn't. And then I was like, God's mad
mm,
at me. I'm broke. I can
mm-hmm,
never have kids. I go through all
mm-hmm,
of that. And
yeah
I always say, like, if you or Jerry or one of the, pick it. If just somebody would have been there, just somebody,
mm-hmm,
another voice, it would have broke
right
something in me, and I would have at least gave it a thought to think, okay, what
mm-hmm,
can I let me give this some time. Let me pray. Let me think about it. Let me talk to somebody.
yes
But it
yep
was so somebody have to get you in and out. They got to hurry this thing
mm-hmm,
on because if you have any chance to think about it, I wouldn't have did it. I wouldn't
right.
have.
That's definitely a tactic they use. My husband, he's out at the abortion clinic in Cuyahoga Falls. That's their tactic. If they have a woman or even a couple that looks to them to want to have a conversation with them,
They
the
separate them.
abortion workers, they distract. They do whatever they can to keep that young woman from talking and because they know if we get them to turn away for just 1 second,
Yeah.
then they could potentially change their mind. There was one incident where the father of this child was really really broken. He really wanted to keep his baby, and he
Mhm.
decided he was going to go in the building to stop her and say, listen, let's just wait a minute, let's talk this out, let's work it out. And the abortion workers would not let him in the building.
Yeah. Like a
So it's
bad
a it's
used
yeah
car salesperson. They want to get you to sign
yeah
on the line.
yep, and that's it. Once you sign, that's it.
Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to bring up, because you said that you they talked about when you were in church, you learned everything about Jesus, everything about the Bible, everything about how to live a holy life, but nobody talked about sex. Nobody
No.
talked
They
about,
said quit. that
yeah, just
that
don't
was
do
good
it.
for a
Don't.
long time. But
Uh-huh. But when
yeah.
you're out there in the real world, when you were away from your covering, um, and you were alone, and he probably was cute and whatever and said whatever he needed to say. But that's one of the things that we're hoping, and you're part of the Sisters for Life as well. We're hoping to just bring some awareness to the Black church about being pro-life and preaching pro-life. And we care about every race. I mean, we don't want any baby, regardless of the race. We think every child should live, every baby should live. But there are some alarming statistics in the Black community. I don't have them in front of me. I think I'm saying this right, and we might have to edit this part. But I believe there about 5 to 7% of the African American population nationwide are of childbearing age. And that population has almost 50% of the abortions.
Yeah, and we only
So,
account for 12% of the population. I mean, so
right.
you talk minority, we're like a mini minority,
The
12%.
mini minority, yeah, and of that 12%, it's even smaller that are childbearing age. And yet
Yeah,
we're having all these abortions. So,
nobody else aborts their babies. You can look at Arabs, they don't get rid of their children because they know that
yeah,
it's a lineage. And what's
yeah,
happening, everybody is outpacing us with birth. And if it keeps up like this, we forget being a minority. It's going to
we won't
be not even
exist.
this,
Mm-hmm.
and then like even with my family, my husband is Hispanic, like it
Mm-hmm.
won't be like, no, we're all mixed with something. And I
Right.
really don't understand the
Like
black
that.
church like that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
because when we go to heaven, it ain't gonna be a black and white section, or
Right. That's right.
we all
Yeah.
be in together.
Yeah.
If we don't get this right, though, we are the church. We're not, a
Yeah.
faction of a church. But
Mm-hmm.
and people hate when I say that, but it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? We
Yeah.
can't, but statistically, and when we look at the majority in a church setting,
Mm-hmm.
and if it's primarily geared to the style and the charisma and different things that we love about a very cultural church,
Yeah.
we don't talk about that. And I don't know if it's because of the black community. I mean, back in the day, I found out that my grandfather was adopted, didn't even know it.
Mm-hmm.
And what had
Mm-hmm.
happened was, on the street, it was a husband and wife that kept having babies. They would have babies
Mm-hmm.
all the time. So they had got up to so many babies that they started giving away their babies. And my great
Wow.
grandfather was like, we want a baby. Let's go down the street and get a baby from them. I mean, just the community raised the
Yep.
children pretty
The
much.
yeah, family, community, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
my mom's a Clink scale too, where it's a very big family in Youngstown. We have big families. I mean, two
Mm-hmm.
sisters married two brothers, and each one of them had 12 kids, and their kids had 12 kids. So we're
Wow.
used to big families.
Yes.
In the predominantly black church, you don't really talk about the bare knuckles of sex. You don't talk about the bare knuckles of homosexuality. You don't talk about the things that could really keep you out of heaven. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
If I would have died in my sin and not got redeemed and gotten forgiven for that, that was murder.
Mm-hmm.
Plain. I mean, there's no way around it. And we want
Mm-hmm.
to rationalize sin, and it's hard to, when a lot of they without they love the stories, Joseph and this and that.
Right.
Break it down, in and out, throw it up, toss it around. It'll be all different kind of variations of it. And I'm like, but the bare knuckles of it, the miracle in Jesus, the fact that he was born. Like, life,
That's right.
it comes from God, and we don't have the
That's right.
right on convenience. Why make a
Mm-hmm.
temporary situation into a permanent,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
lifestyle thing? You know what I'm saying? This is
And you
temporary.
can't undo it. You can't undo it. You
You
brought
can't
up
undo.
two important points. One is our culture historically have always been we've had big families. The street that I grew up on, everybody on the street had at least 5 kids, and they were like stair steps, and everybody just had a big family. And everybody has that in their family where somebody raised them because maybe
Mhm.
that one was a teen mom and was not able. So, auntie, grandma, somebody raised the baby, but there was no aborting your baby. The other
Now,
point you
you hear
said,
about how, now, I'm sorry, Lori, not to cut off, but
no, go
right,
ahead.
you hear like how, that's, I always thought that was my mom, and that's like really my auntie. You know what I'm saying? You just didn't know no difference. You hear all kind of stories
Yes.
like that,
Yep.
or grandma, but that's really, I mean,
It's
that
really
was
my auntie, but it's my mom or
yeah,
whatever. Yeah,
that's my mom, that's
that
really
was
my
very
grandma.
common.
Stuff like that.
Yeah,
That's very common.
it was common. And you said I could be a grandma right now. So, and I heard this and you mentioned it at the pro life rally that we were in Columbus. One of the speakers said, if you save a baby, you save a generation. And so you're right. There's a whole generation that's missing there because You could have been a grandma and then one day a great grandma and so on. So I never thought of it that way before.
Yeah, and when you look
So,
at if they really looked at where abortion came from and what it was intended
mm-hmm,
for, they talk about systemic racism.
mm-hmm,
Abortion is systemic racism as at its core.
absolutely,
It's just
absolutely.
like in the Bible with Joseph and even Jesus. Get rid of this
Mm-hmm,
baby because they're going to
mm-hmm,
be powerful. They're overtaken. They're doing this. Get
mm-hmm.
rid of these kids. It's the same spirit in operation. Get rid of
Absolutely.
the
Get rid of
children.
the baby. There was, and I don't know where it is. I think it's in Genesis. Where's the story of Moses? Yeah, that's Genesis,
Yeah.
where there were some midwives that did not obey the king. And they said, we are not going to murder these babies. And God blessed them for that. He
Yeah.
established their house homes for that.
You
So,
ever like Jesus was the only one in Bethlehem that was his age? Because remember, all during the census, Herod had sent out a decree to
mm-hmm,
kill all the babies under three
a
and
certain
under.
age. Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
when Jesus went to the cross, he was the only person from Bethlehem that was his age that could have met every qualification to be chosen the Messiah because of the
Uh-huh.
prophecy. He was the
Mm-hmm.
only one. There was no
Mm-hmm.
other 33-year-olds that were from Bethlehem because they had all been slaughtered.
Damn, been killed. Wow. And now look at what we're doing today. So you also mentioned too, and it's true that we rationalize it. We call it health care. We call it reproductive justice. There's
I know,
all
right?
these little like terms that are made up, but they're oxymorons. It's actually a lie. And so, unfortunately, even in the church, I think they've bought into that. The
Yeah.
other statistic I wanted to mention is in these congregations, every fourth seat is somebody who's been either a post abortive mom or a man who has fathered an aborted child. And so if you look in your congregation on Sunday morning and count every four seats, that's a lot of people that have been impacted by abortion, even including in the pulpit too.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
the fact that the Black church is kind of silent about it is alarming. So that's one of the things that we're working on, and you were very instrumental in that. Where and I don't know if we want to talk about that here. Jerry could edit it out
He
if he
won't.
doesn't want them. But we hosted the Sisters for Life. You and I are a part of. We hosted women in leadership, first ladies, ministers, all kind of women in leadership in the Black church, and we gathered them together and we shared these statistics. We shared the stories, and the hope of that is that they would go back to their church and say, I learned a lot about what's going on with abortion and how it's impacting the Black community. And let's do something about this. We need to talk about this because if we don't, we're not going to have a race. We are killing off our future. That is our
Yeah.
hope. We're still working on that. And we
I'm so
know it's.
glad. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to touch on that, how you because you brought up that statistic so good when you guys spoke at the last meeting for Sisters for Life. You had that they had the string around there, and you had brought up that I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
why the
Oh,
strings were on the seats, and that
right.
was it.
Yeah.
And then when you had said it, we were like, like,
Right,
and
one
we
in four. And you look around the room and you see how many hands were up. So that is very symbolic of what's happening in our churches on Sunday from the pulpit to
yeah,
the pew. And yet we're not talking about it. So I'm hoping that as Voices for Life, as we have this series of these stories, as we talk about the statistics, as we talk about the history of Planned Parenthood and Margaret Sanger and all that is
yeah,
involved in the abortion industry, I'm hoping that it's going to bring awareness to our community and beyond.
mhm,
And then ultimately, we want to see the eradication of abortion. We want to see that go away. We want that to be like it's not an option anymore. I know
yeah.
that's really big. I know that's an uphill
Happened.
battle,
It
but
has,
I think it has to happen. Yeah, because
yeah.
I know God is not pleased with
Yeah, and that
that.
healing about it, the healing is so important because when I started actually having my children, I was on autopilot. Like I said, they're right now they're 18,
Mm-hmm.
15, 2014. And what had happened is because of all the trauma and everything that I kept inside, this is the, you know, the pleasure and the pain of it. But I had so many complications. I mean, each one, it was just devastating to live with. I almost lost one of them. And
Yeah.
with the last one with Exodus, I went to my first panic attack ever because I was on bed rest. I had placenta previa and it was a lot of things going on, and I had hemorrhage, and you know, I had to have them in PA. Couldn't even have them in Youngstown, but I had a panic attack surgery, and when I came out, I had another panic attack, and it just threw a whole level of I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and with
Wow.
anxiety. And when they said you have PTSD, I'm like, I've never been in a war. When I looked it up, I didn't even know what that was. And they
Yeah.
said my body had been on autopilot for so long. It's like I know I was sad because of stuff and trying to get through stuff, but your body holds on to trauma.
You're right. Yeah.
The only thing that could release it is, for me, it was Christ. It wasn't a counselor that could do it. It wasn't anything. It had to be a total restoration of my soul. And the church has that. We have that total healing,
There is
that
healing.
cleanse
Yeah, there is a healing in the church,
and
and so
forgiveness.
that's why and forgiveness. Yeah, that's why it really needs to be talked about. So
Definitely.
before we wrap up here, what would you say to somebody out there who's watching, listening, or whatever, who is post abortive and they are carrying this secret and they are having some symptoms? Their body is kind of letting them know you know you're carrying some trauma here. What would be your advice to them?
If you're a believer, pray. If you're not, find somebody that is a believer and get saved. So that I mean, that's the only thing I can say. And then connect with Voices for Life. You know, we have amazing partners with Pregnancy Center and different things like that. You need a community of people that have gone through it, know how to get through it. I had a therapist, but a lot of times it's hard for them to really look at, because they look at it from a clinical. It's the soul.
Right.
It's our
Yeah.
souls that are affected,
Yeah.
and no medicine can cure that. I would have take. They gave me so much medicine, so many, you know, counseling sessions
Trying
that
to
you
calm your nerves. Yeah, but it wasn't
nothing
helping.
can do it
Yeah.
but the blood of Jesus. I can only
Right.
tell you what it did for me and the
Yeah.
people that I know that have gone through it, that brought them to total restoration. I thought I was broken. I thought I couldn't have no children. Well, open up my womb, open up my
Yeah.
heart, let me be able to love again after being abused for so long.
Yeah.
It was only through the forgiveness and the restoration through Jesus Christ.
That is a beautiful testimony. Beautiful. So I want to thank you for sharing that. It's a very powerful story, beautiful testimony of how there is redemption after abortion. You don't have to carry that alone, and there is healing and forgiveness afterwards. Thank you so much, Jessica, for joining us on We Are Voices for Life podcast. Thank you for sharing your amazing story.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been really great. Look forward to
And
doing it
yes,
again.
and you know we're going to be in touch
Definitely.
on other ventures coming up, and I will be announcing that on Voices for Life. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode where we're going to share another amazing story from another young, amazing woman. Thank you for tuning in, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to the Voices for Life podcast. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share with a friend. And you can visit us at voicesforlife.net. Have a blessed day.